Welcome to Mr. Chalk's Revision Tips. In this video, we will look at inherited conditions, cystic fibrosis and polydactyly. Inherited diseases is a genetic problem caused by one or more abnormalities in the genome. There are some conditions in which genetic changes are responsible for causing this condition. So this is called an inherited disease or a genetic disorder. So some characteristics are controlled by a single gene. Each gene may have different forms called alleles. The genes present or the genotype operate at a molecular level to develop characteristics that are expressed in the phenotype. A dominant allele is expressed only if it's present in as long as it's present in one chromosome. A recessive allele is expressed only if it is present in both chromosomes. So if two alleles are present that are the same in a person, this is called homozygous. If the alleles are different, this is called heterozygous. So most characteristics, however, are a result of multiple genes interacting. Cystic fibrosis is an inherited disorder of the cell membranes that mainly affects the lungs and digestive system. They can become clogged up with lots of thick, sticky mucus as too much is produced. So over many years, the lungs become increasingly damaged and may eventually stop working properly. It is caused by a faulty recessive allele on chromosome 7. So to be born with cystic fibrosis, a child has to inherit 2 copies of this faulty gene from their parents, or from one of their parents. Their parents will not usually have the condition themselves because they will only carry one faulty gene and one gene that works normally. So the recessive allele, so the lowercase, can be shown as a small c, whereas the dominant allele is shown by a capital C. The recessive allele, which is shown as a small c, like I just said, so an individual is homozygous, so small c, with the recessive allele will develop cystic fibrosis. Someone who is heterozygous, so big C, little c, will be a carrier and not receive and not develop the traits of the recessive allele, so will not develop cystic fibrosis. Someone who is homozygous with the dominant allele big C will not develop cystic fibrosis, whereas those with 2 faulty alleles, so little c, will go and develop it. So in a person with cystic fibrosis, the lining of the lungs and digestive system create too much mucus. Right, so explain why children with cystic fibrosis grow more slowly than those without. So the key things that you need to talk about are that there would be fewer digestive enzymes that would be able to enter the small intestines, so the enzymes will be able to break down or digest as much food, which means that less nutrients would be absorbed into the bloodstream, so those nutrients wouldn't be available for things like respiration. Less proteins would be made for growth. Less oxygen would be able to enter the bloodstream because it wouldn't be able to pass out of the lungs into the blood, which would have a knock-on effect to respiration. Polydactyly is an inherited condition, which means that a person has 8 fingers or toes. It is caused by a dominant allele of a gene. So this means that it can be passed on by just one allele from one parent if they have the disorder. So someone who is homozygous big P, or heterozygous big P, little p, for the dominant allele will develop polydactyly. So offspring will need to carry just one dominant allele from their parents to inherit it. So the probability of the offspring having polydactyly is 50% and 50% not. So this can be expressed with a ratio of 2 to 2. So if one parent has polydactyly, then the chance of their offspring having it is 50%. Down syndrome is caused by the presence of 3 copies of chromosome 21 rather than just the usual 2. So it happens when a gamete forms abnormally during meiosis and has an extra copy of chromosome 21. So individuals might have reduced muscle tone and cognitive development sometimes. So it is caused by the presence of an extra chromosome, like we just said. So the results in an individual is that they would have 47 chromosomes, not the normal 46. An individual with Down syndrome, like we've just said, has 3 copies of chromosome 21. Hemophilia is a mostly inherited genetic disorder that impairs the body's ability to make blood clots, so a process needed to stop bleeding. This results in a person bleeding for a longer time after an injury, bruising easily, and having an increased risk of bleeding inside joints and the brain. So sufferers are unable to clot their blood, resulting in excessive bleeding even from small cuts. It is sex-linked, so inherited condition by a recessive allele on the X chromosome. So it is very, very, very rare for it to occur in women. However, because men only have one X chromosome, it's much more likely to occur in them. Sufferers are almost exclusively males for this reason. So, however, if his X chromosome carries the dominant or normal allele, then he will be normal. So those women with one normal and one recessive allele are called carriers. So although they themselves are normal, they can pass on the recessive allele to half of their children, potentially.
Thanks for watching.